Hello, everyone, and welcome to our interview this morning with the Department of Environment, and advisory from them, as a matter of fact. In studio today, we have a diver, Mr. Miles Charman, who's going to share a very interesting story with us today. Miles, tell us what happened during a dive that you recently had.
Well, just a few weeks ago, I was hunting on the North Wall for lionfish with my dive buddy, and we saw two sharks passing by. The first one just checked us out and swim away like they usually do. But the second one got very close, actually, to me, and started to circle around me. I was the one with my empty bucket. So I started to point my spear toward him, and he actually came in my general direction and starting to open his mouth, which is not something I'm used to when I'm with sharks. And to the point where he was so close, I had to poke him in the mouth to make him understand that it was very too close for comfort. And strangely enough, he didn't really, I would have expected, to swim away like quickly, that something bad happened. And it wasn't the case. He just turned left and started to slowly swim away. And I had to poke him another time in the tail so that he understand that something was wrong. And finally, at this point of the encounter, he really swam away fast.
How did you feel?
Well, definitely uncomfortable, if not threatened. The experience wasn't the most pleasant, as you can imagine. And I spent the rest of the dive looking over my shoulder, checking if the shark was coming back. And I haven't hunted since then.
Are you aware of intentional shark feeding taking place here in the Cayman Islands?
Well, unfortunately, I've seen videos circulating on WhatsApp of scuba divers on Grand Cayman feeding sharks. But if I would have these people in front of me, I would just highlight the fact that they obviously should not be feeding sharks, because it puts everyone's life at risk. Hunters like myself and the sharks as well, because they can have negative consequences for sharks, unfortunately.
So now we have Dr. Johanna Kohler. She is the Shark Project Coordinator for the Department of Environment. What was your reaction to Miles' story when you heard about it?
When he called me and told me what happened, I was very alarmed, but I was also glad that nobody got hurt. Normally, sharks don't associate humans with food. We are not on their menu. Sharks eat fish, and our studies even showed that sharks usually avoid areas with high human activity, in-water activity, such as diving and boat traffic. So the shark incident showed clear signs of learned behavior, because when the diver lifted the spear, the shark opened the mouth and expected to be fed.
So why do you think it is that some people are actually feeding sharks?
Well, some people think it's probably great for business, tips from customers, but feeding of wildlife, and especially sharks, create challenges for both humans and the shark. Divers might get injured,
right,
because they're not expecting the sharks to approach them. Then if someone gets hurt by a conditioned shark, there will be an outcry, but it's not really the shark's fault, because they are predators, they're attracted to food, and this is a human-made problem.
So, Mr. Orr, you have been working the waters of the Cayman Islands for a very long time. Has shark feeding ever been an issue here in Cayman? Has there been like a long history of it?
Not that long a history, because unfortunately we haven't had a lot of sharks. I mean, I remember as a young man talking to some, the older fishermen like Captain Marvin, who said in his day, like when he was 18 to 20, you couldn't go in the water like with a spear, and you didn't spearfish because there was so many sharks. But unfortunately, there was a short term of sharks being harvested after the turtle fishery had eased off, and shark skins were being shipped to the States, and they actually killed off the majority of sharks in our area. So when I was spearfishing young as 18, 19, we might see a shark once every 10 trips out, and we'd be in the water for hours. Now we see a lot more, which I take as a good thing.
So let's go a step further. What does the law say about feeding sharks?
Yeah. Well, sharks are a protected species in the Cayman Islands now, along with rays. But specifically for sharks, it prohibits any take of sharks, and that means not only like even attempting to take. So even if someone thinks they're catching and releasing a shark, that's still illegal. Feeding sharks is illegal. You cannot remove them, like I said, any take in any form. But if they're bycatch, that's fine, but you have to make every effort to release them. And from this incident, I think the biggest part is that from the videos I've seen recently, there's a lot of feeding going on with unlicensed spear guns. But under the definition of the law, spear guns are any device with a pointed end which can be used to take marine life. So pole spears, Hawaiian slings, regular spear guns, they are all spear guns under the law. And if you do not have a licensed spear gun, even for lion fishing from the DoE, that spear is illegal. If you have a license for culling, you are supposed to have a container, put the fish, as soon as you take the lionfish, you put it in the container. You cannot just waving that fish around and feeding it to other predators. Not just sharks, we've had incidents with eels being, again, seeing people as food after being fed. So it's, all of that is illegal. You have to follow the laws, even if you think you're doing something good for the environment.
Very interesting. So what happens if I'm a fisherman? I just happened, or I went and caught some fish and I'm cleaning, and is that illegal to do if you're attracting sharks in that manner?
Incidental feeding of the shark, when you're just throwing the skins and stuff in the water away from you, that's fine. It's when you go a little bit further and you maybe take some of those parts and start getting in the water and trying to hand feed the shark. That's when the sharks associate people with food. So if you're just cleaning your catch, throwing it into the sea around you, that's not a problem. And not against the law. It's when you actually actively feed the shark that you're breaking the law.
Okay, so on the tail end of that, how can people, in our community prevent or be careful not to accidentally attract sharks?
I think the main part is just be aware of the laws, follow the regulations. They're there for a reason. They are thought out by people who know what they're talking about. I think a lot of people think, oh, it's the DoE, but we have people there, and scientists and officers who have been doing this for a long time, 24 years for myself, and I am a local, I'm a spear fisherman. I come from the background, and anyone on my boat does it properly because it helps in the future and you're not breaking the law.
So what happens if someone out there happens to see someone feeding sharks? What should they do?
Well, my phone number is probably is on every brochure sign out there, so please call me on 916-4271. You can give us a call if it's something that you think will be an emergency, like possibly cause some trouble with someone being injured. Call 911. They will pass the call on to us. Or if it's something that you've seen or heard about and you want to just pass on that information, we appreciate any photos and videos or information you can have, and you can just email the department at doe.ky, and we'll take care of it. We'll put together a case and we'll check it out.
All right, Mr. Orr, thank you so much for imparting your knowledge with us today. And of course, thank you to our viewing public for joining us for this DoE advisory.